All right, so these next two questions are pretty easy as long as you use the matrix calculator. Remember, in order to find the matrix calculator, you're going to have to go to Desmos and either change where you're at. Sometimes you automatically go to the graphing calculator, or you're going to have to type into Google Desmos matrix in order to find that. Let me pull up how I would put this into the matrix. Remember, the first thing we have to do is actually write this in a matrix that we can use reduced row echelon form on. And so for this particular question, we would say 4 and 5. So we're only using the coefficients 4 and 5, 3 and -1, 3 and -1. And then usually we have this bar that we write when we write it out. But when we put it in the calculator, we don't put that bar in there. So I'm going to name this my matrix A, and then I'm going to do reduced row echelon form on matrix A in the calculator, and I'll get a new matrix. So let me pull that up and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so some things I want to point out. The first thing that we have to do is we have to type in that we would like a new matrix. So that's right here. When we do that, we can edit our matrix, and we have to use rows and columns. Now remember, our RC COLA, it's rows by columns, so there are two rows, and this one has 1, 2, 3 columns, so this should say 3 columns. So I did that when I entered my matrix A. Then, once I entered the matrix, you can see I've matched 4, 5, 3, -1, 27, and 10. Also notice that there are no lines. There's no line right down the middle, kind of like there is here when we write them in. Then I've used the reduced row echelon form. It looks, RREF, it's a little button right down here. I'll show you on my next screenshot on the next question. And then once I do that, it gives me this matrix. So that reduced row echelon form of the matrix is 1, 0, 0, 1, and 3, and 5. So this essentially is, this is my X, this is my Y. So this is 1x plus 0y equals 3, which is essentially just 1x equals 3, or x equals 3. And the bottom one is 0x plus 1y equals 5, which is really y equals 5. All that to say that essentially all this means is that this is my x and this is my y. So I would put that in as an ordered pair, and it would look like this, 3, 5. Or I could say that x equals 3 and y is equal to 5. So let's repeat that on the second question here on number 16. All right, so the next one we're going to start with the reduced row. We're going to start with the matrix. So we have to put that in. So it's 2, -1, and 1. So that's -1 and 1. Then there's no y in this second equation. So it's like there's a 0y in the middle there. So it's going to be a 1y, a 0y, and another 1y. Then we have a -1z, a 1z, and a 3z, not to be confused with a 1z. And then a -10, a 3, and a 13. That's the matrix I'm going to put in. Now, if we're looking rows and columns, remember this is 1, 2, 3 rows, and rows comes first. So that's a 3 by, and our columns is 1, 2, 3, 4, so 4. So it's a 3 by 4 matrix. So that's what I'm going to enter in when I do this on Desmos. Okay, so some things I want you to notice here. I double checked this 3 times because I got a fraction, so I got a little freaked out. It's okay if you get a fraction. Just double check your work to make sure that you've done it correctly. And so I did. I've got a 2, a -1, a 1, a 1, so a 2, a -1, a 1, a 1, a 0, a 1, a -1, a 1, and a 3, a -10, a 3, and a 13. When I do my reduced row echelon, that's right here, RREF, ref, and I type in RREF of A, and it gave me this answer. Now, if I were in a place where I had to put that in a fraction, there's a little button right here to the right that looks like a fraction. When you click that, it turns all your answers into fractions. So you can write these answers in any way that you'd like. So X is 3.6 repeating, or 11 over 3. Y is -10.6 repeating, or -32 over 3. and z is 6.6 repeating, or 20/3. So any of those would be an accurate way to represent this, depending on how they are asking. But just make sure that you're double checking to be accurate when you plug things in, that you did type it in correctly. So it was a 2x, which was a 2x, a negative 1x, a negative 1x, a 1x, and a 1x, and then a 1y, and there's my mistake. Nope, that's right. A 1y, a 0y for not having one, and then a 1y again. So all my y's are positive or 0. Then a negative z, negative 1z, a 1, and then a 3, and then negative 10, 3, and 13. So this is correct. All right, number 17, it asks me to sketch a graph of the following equation. There's a lot of things that I can do here, guys, but the easiest one is to just go ahead and plug that into Desmos. Things I'm looking for are the x-intercepts. So where does it cross the x-axis? So it looks like it crosses at negative 5.5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So about here. And then again, at a little over a half. So right here, it's pointing up. It has a y-intercept of 0, negative 3, so that's here. And it looks like my vertex is at negative 2.5 all the way down to negative 9.25, so maybe about here. So a sketch just includes the features that we can find pretty easily. And we're looking that it opens up. We're looking that it has a vertex that is somewhere around this, and that it crosses the y-axis at negative 3. All right, number 18 is one of my favorites. It is pretty simple to do. It's a double distributive property. So we do x times x and we get x squared. X times negative 4 is negative 4x. Then we switch over and we do 2 times x, which is 2x, and 2 times negative 4, which is negative 8. We combine our like terms, and our answer is x squared minus 2x minus 8. And that must be answer letter D right over here. Didn't get all those in. All right, next one is very similar. So let's get all of our answer choices in. And I'm going to erase a little bit of this right here. And we're going to do the double distribute. 2x times 3x is 6x squared. 2x times 3 is positive 6x. Negative 5 times 3 is negative 15x. And negative 5 times positive 3 is negative 15. Then we're going to combine our like terms. These guys are alike. So that's a 6x squared. 6 minus 15 is a negative 9x minus 15. So that would be none of the answers, which I believe I just got an email that said this one had none of the answers. So this is actually the correct answer. We are triple checking, I promise, for all of those on the test. The last one on this page, number 20, is factoring out the GCF. So that's the greatest common factor. I notice these are both divisible by 3, and they both have an x, so I'm taking an x out. So that gives me a 3x, and then when I divide, 15 divided by 3 gives me a 5, and x squared divided by x, that's like 2 x's, so I cancel out 1 and I still have an x. 24 divided by 3 gives me an 8, and these x's cancel, so that is letter choice B. All right, that's page 3 for you guys. We'll keep working on the next video.